MBwTFB is doing a Minnesota short showcase on January 23rd. So if you want to come out and see it, I'm hosting the red carpet, and it should be a fun night.
Welcome back to Movie Beaters with the Farx brothers. We're still debating the substance right now with Lori Roovers. Lori is a actor, model, and producer. And this is the spoilers section.
So, Lori, what was your take on the ending in the final form of Monstro Elizasu? What do you think that meant?
That meant it came full circle, is what it meant. We started with a star. We ended with we started with eggs, okay, but really, the whole leading up to the actual story was the building of this star. And we ended with the star, and even if you don't like a story that's neatly tied in a bow, the story does come full circle, and it shows the fleeting nature of stardom.
Okay, so you see the monster as the Monstro Elizasu. I'm going to try to say that because they're a, entity unto themselves that we should all respect and has value of life. I don't really believe that.
The monster itself, I don't think of as fleeting nature of stardom, but I mean that the whole star, I think, created the monster.
The opening and closing image that give us that star.
Yeah. They want to hang on, and people want to hang on to their stardom. They want to hang on to their youth. And you win an Oscar as a star. That's the pinnacle of being an actor, is winning an Oscar, or so we're led to believe. I don't really think that, but you get that, and then all of a sudden you drop off the radar of everyone, really.
Sure, it's a bait show, so I have to say something in disagreeing with you. The disagreement on why it's important to win an Oscar or an Emmy or one of these things is that it gets you more work, and some people have bonuses tied to those things. Now, does money get you friends? No, you can't buy friends with money, but you can buy people who hang around you, I suppose. So I'm not passionate about that. What about when she Monstro Elizasu, is spraying the audience with blood because our colleague Jennifer Prettyman said that that's where the movie lost her. That's also where my father said it lost him.
It was cheesy almost, but everything that writer-director does is for a reason, and it's making the point that everyone in that audience who came to see that show, it was a show full of showgirls that were topless, and a woman came with her daughter in a princess dress.
Yeah, that was weird.
To idolize these women. We start at a young age trying to be a certain persona that we see, and it may or may not be attainable. Anyway, all the people in the audience, including from the shareholders down to that little girl, were all being sprayed with blood because why didn't the mom take the little girl out? It was making a point that everyone's to blame for this.
Oh, damn it. That's what I was going to say. So I agree with you on this. Darn it.
Yeah, everyone is to blame for this. They all have blood on their hands.
I mean, I get that, but I think having the monster play dress up was a little too cartoony for me. Like, she's literally trying on the dress, and then she has her earrings on, and then she puts on this poster of her face, and then she has to go all the way down to the show, and then she gets attacked by men. Mind you, only the men are calling her monster, freak. I mean, I get the idea that these people created her, but it just made me sad to think that this is where her life led to, and she's being attacked for what they wanted. I don't think it's that clever, though.
It's not. Okay. Yeah. You're saying it's not clever, but I don't think that disagrees with the point that the audience is to blame for whatever would cause Elizabeth to go through this process to become Sue and then share that existence.
But I think if it was Dennis Quaid's character who forced Sue to inject herself with it, I think that would have been more impactful, because you're already putting this whole story of men are the ones who are setting the standard in Hollywood. Why not have him do it? That way you don't have Sue. It's kind of like her own choice. To this point, it's her own choice, and having the man make the choice for her, I think it would have been more impactful.
I see the cartoony part for sure, because there are certain scenes that are definitely over the top and cartoony. I completely agree with that. I think, though, that because she's been surrounded by all these influences her whole life, she hates herself, she's depressed, she throws things at her own pictures. When when the young Sue and the old Sue fight, you can just feel that hatred in the young Sue just beating the crap out of her, right? Out of the old person. Like, that is what she has always wanted to do, is beat the heck out of her older version. It's just that rage, that palpable, I hate you so much, that's coming from her.
I'm going to disagree with Kirk first, then I'm going to disagree with you. I agreed with what you said first, and then I have to disagree with you on. Actually, ladies first. Excuse me, Lori. You're the guest. I disagree with you because the reason Sue wants to beat Elizabeth is because she sees the termination juice that, like, hey, you wanted to kill me, so now I want to kill you. I would argue there is a different reason as to why she's attacking her. I feel the reason you're making, but I think the plausible antithesis of that argument would be because it's of immediate actions by the protagonist.
Don't you feel like she was just waiting? She was just waiting for that moment to be able to kill her, and to have a good reason to do it, because over time she keeps stealing from her, and like, you know that she hates her.
Yeah,
she's the one that builds the wall in the bathroom to hide her, because she doesn't want to even look at her.
I saw that as a metaphor for the younger self not taking into account as I said earlier in the non-spoiler section, the younger body writing a check that the older body has to cash. You see this with, I know I felt it when I was in my young 20s, like, who cares? If I die, who cares? It's a self-hatred, there's what is it? The things are man versus God, man versus man, and man versus self. I'm arguing that she is a man versus man when she's trying to kill her right after she almost kills her. I think you're arguing maybe that it's a woman versus self, in the sense that she hates herself. Would you agree or disagree with the concept that Sue hates herself by hating Elizabeth?
No, I think Sue loves herself. I think Sue loves herself, and she wants to be Sue forever. She wants to stay in that spot forever. It would have been interesting to see if they would have played it out. Like, does Sue get older, and then what? Like, eventually Elizabeth has to die, right? Eventually, what happens then? But I think Sue just really hates the older version.
But I
don't understand where that hate actually comes from, because I also don't understand the cooking scene. She's cooking, but even if Elizabeth eats, Sue doesn't get fatter, right?
Right. They hate each other, though. They hate each other because the older one wants to be the younger one and have that life, but she's not living that life. She's living this life where she's dying. She's losing herself exponentially, and I think they hate each other for different reasons. And how do we know? Do we know, is Sue knowing what Elizabeth is thinking? Because they seem to wake up and be surprised by what the other has done.
Yeah, so they are not one.
So they're not one. I know. Like, does this make sense even?
Okay, if you're changing my mind from it's not self-hatred, then could the metaphor be it's about how one assumes women, and far be it from me to say, that women will help each other out. But I just saw Baby Girl today, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but at one point a character says to a powerful female character, I would have thought a woman with power would be different. So is it really about, when you say it's about two people hating each other, could it be a metaphor for women hating each other and not lifting each other up? Not that that's what all women do. Not all women, okay? Hashtag not all women. And I expect to be disagreed with by somebody who's experienced life as a woman versus me who has been a man.
Right.
A young boy.
I feel like women do help each other out.
Good.
So I don't know. I don't experience that in my own life, and I try and help other women out. But I think it's self-hatred because they are supposed to be one. Yeah. But at the same time, there's this contradiction of them not knowing what the other has done after the 7 days. The switch happens. And so there is a little something missing there in the plot.
I mean, if they did, I understand why Elizabeth hates Sue. I understand because Sue is getting all the spotlight. Sue has no real reason to hate Elizabeth for any actual reason. She doesn't. What is
Because she's
Elizabeth do.
old. Because she's
just
ugly.
old, yeah.
Because that's the ugly part of her.
And she eats a lot.
She's getting uglier, and she doesn't want to have to even look at her anymore.
Okay, I thought of another metaphor. Something I, having had a sister, have experienced is that Elizabeth, in a way, births Sue. So one could look at it as a mother-daughter relationship.
That's what my husband said.
Oh, wait. Well, hey, you
Yeah.
both ride one wheel, so your husband and I are cool.
Yeah.
So, like, how teenage girls or girls in their young 20s, or even me when I was in my young 20s, was like, screw you, dad. Like, this is like a young versus old thing versus just specifically. But obviously, there's this birthing of one for the other. So, could it be a metaphor for that as to why she hates her Kirk? Or, sorry, Lori, you tell us.
It could be, because I always wondered, why doesn't Elizabeth do that back to Sue? Mm-hmm. Why doesn't she steal the fluid from Sue?
Oh, yeah.
When she's out? And that is a good explanation. Maybe she does sort of think of her as sort of a daughter because she doesn't have a daughter. And that's why she won't do it back to her. Because she's the mother figure. That's the only thing I can think of that why she wouldn't steal from Sue. Instead, she does all these exterior things, like she makes a mess of the apartment. She cooks all this stuff and leaves it and eats constantly, right?
My only argument for the 2 steps earlier when we were talking about women not helping other women is like Shirley Chisholm got knifed at I think it was the 1972, you know who Shirley Chisholm is? Mm-mm. She was almost the vice presidential candidate on the Democrat ticket in 1972, but Gloria Steinman in the Cate Blanchett show Miss America, where she plays Phyllis Schlafly, do you know who that is? Doesn't matter. The point is that Gloria Steinman is depicted as kind of knifing Shirley Chisholm because she's not the right woman for this time kind of thing. So that was my reference point in my head, because I always think of that like, geez, is that what really happened to Shirley Chisholm? I haven't watched the Netflix movie. I've watched Hulu's Mrs. America. If that isn't helpful, I'm going to argue to transition to talking about men. Kirk, here's why it wouldn't make sense for the decision to be forced on the Sue or Elizabeth character by Harvey's character, because that takes away the agency of our protagonist. So regardless of sex, even though it may be your sexist ways that caused you to think of that.
Right.
Your
Kirk has a bunch of sisters, don't you?
Yeah,
He
I
does.
do.
Yeah,
Anybody have sisters is to be sexist, I think. Yeah.
They've taught him well, I think.
I'm sure Kirk has been taught well. But Lori, you mentioned that you wanted to talk more about men in the movie when we got to spoilers. Which man would you like to start with?
Oh my gosh, we did talk a lot about Dennis Quaid in the non-spoiler section, but oh my goodness, it's worth revisiting because he did such a great job. But he was over the top and a little cartoony. Yeah. But just the ultimate jerk, the ultimate really prick is really what he was.
Why would you say what does he do that specifically turned you off to him?
The irony, really, that he is what he is, gross and old, same age probably or older than Elizabeth Sparkle in the movie, but he has the power and he has this value. He doesn't value her talent, obviously, because he poo-poos the Oscar that she won. He values youth and beauty, and apparently she doesn't add up to that, and so he ousts her in a mean way. I mean, just mean. He was mean to her in
telling her that
you're done
because
Goodbye.
You're 50. That's too old for a woman. And do you think that conversation? So he acts in an absurd way. Agreed. Do you think that conversation is absurd, or do you think that it's has anyone ever heard that is basically what I'm asking, do you think? Or
for sure.
Okay, yeah.
For sure they've heard that.
So that's not absurd, but the way he's acting is absurd.
The way he says it is terrible, and she's beautiful. As of whatever, she just turns 50 in the movie. I know in real life she's 60-something. And you have to keep that in mind when you see the nude scenes, because her body's is
great.
Rockin', yeah.
Although one of the things I wanted to talk about in non-spoilers, I don't know if I have a debate here, but how did you feel towards the nudity? Lori, I'll start with you again. In this movie specifically.
For me, it wasn't sexual at all.
Agreed. Sorry, I was a disagreement show, but agreed.
Even when they showed them in the shower, when they showed so many different angles of Margaret Qualley's butt, holy cow, they showed that in every angle possible, upside down and inside. Like, I was surprised they didn't show her butthole. That's how close and so many different angles they shot her butt at. And it's worth shooting. It's a cute butt. She has a darling butt.
Well, that's your opinion. I'm not here to comment on that. She's married to the guy from Bleachers, so good for her. And she's friends with Taylor Swift.
It was a long amount of nudity. This is like 20 minutes at least, with various scenes included, of complete nudity. Was it sexual for either one of you?
God, no.
No.
But my wife argued that if she was a dude, she thought like you could make yourself. I have a hard time divorcing myself from the disgust I feel most of the movie. Like, I'm not at her body. Again, thought it was, wow, 60-something-year-old Demi Moore has a believably, she could have been 45 for all I know, whatever.
Not a speck of cellulite on that body.
Okay.
She was thin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's thin.
Yep, and there are beauty standards that translate throughout the world of different. I don't have a good answer to that. I was just, I agree with you. That's not sexual. Is it necessary? Like, I wouldn't recommend this movie to my mother
Is the nudity necessary?
Yeah, like I would argue it is. If it's anyone want.
It's in the bathroom. So, I mean, that's the one place you're kind of, and she's in the shower, so you're expected to be naked in there anyway. So, yeah, it's an appropriate place to be naked. She's not like naked anywhere else except maybe at the end where like the boobs are coming out of the monster in the dress. But I mean, that's kind of cartoony.
And maybe we're doing less debating and more like, what the hell were they trying to say? And that, I think that's fine. When the boob pops out of the eyeball and it looks like an eyeball, what was that about? Was it? Here's my take: is that maybe it was the eye, like all those people watching, as you've kind of talked about.
That was the point at which everybody started yelling at her and screaming after that boob fell out of her eye socket.
I think they had
was up to that point they were okay, but until that boob fell out of her eye socket, then they started screaming. That was the impetus for them to start yelling at her.
One boob too many.
Until Michael Jackson's
nose. It was just a little too far for them at that point. Like, what?
It would be like if Michael Jackson's nose fell off on stage. I'm sorry.
Technically, he doesn't have a nose.
No, but he wore a fake nose, and they remember in Scary Movie 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember Scary Movie 3 where Charlie Sheen pulls off the nose on accident? I suppose you aren't familiar with the South Park episode from 16 years ago where Britney Spears shoots off half of her face and is running around with half her face gone. So, like, when you said this isn't new in the non-spoiler section, I guess I could have referenced the South Park episode, which I meant to show Kirk after we watched the movie Kirk's first time last night. So Britney Spears blows her head off and is running around the movie with half her head, or the episode of South Park with it missing. And they do a Children of the Corn thing, like, she's gotta, do this. Again, to your point, this is not a new concept. We kind of bring this on ourselves. Chelsea Knight, in our recent writers meeting, I don't think she had a problem with me sharing this, said, like, I don't like the amount of sexualization in culture right now, because I'll be watching like a football game with my kids and feel like, geez, that's a little too much, but I'll bait Chelsea and we'll send this to her. I think people had that opinion back in the 80s or 90s. I don't know. Have you ever had that feeling like, oh, we're being too prurient, and the male gaze is a way to describe that. I think that's efficient.
Not often. Not often. There's art.
Sure.
Some people's art, as opposed to, and I don't want to stifle seeing a woman's body or sexualizing a woman's body, or if like at a football game, she might be referring to the dancers, and I love the dancers. So
it could be beer commercials too. That would be the example my parents would have given. Is like, this commercial trying to sell beer, but it's selling an adult product to adults. So to me, when I was a kid and I saw, a busty woman or something trying to sell beer, I was like, oh, this is how advertising works. And has that changed in 20 years?
I think
years,
it goes
40?
back to just men and what sells. And if it sells to them, if that's their target audience, then that's what they're going to put on the screen. So
I haven't seen a lot of commercials like that. recently. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of
No,
busty
there
women with
hasn't.
beard. Yeah, I've never seen that.
Well, that goes. The cinematographer specifically said the movie is like doing a '90s style. Like that's the way he was informed that he should be filming the movie. Think of the '90s male gaze and how, things were. And I remember the '90s. I would say we have it. Well, actually, this is a debate topic that I like asking people because Alex didn't agree with me that we've progressed in some ways since 30 years ago. Do you feel like what are the progresses we've made and what are the ones we haven't made in 30 years as, a data point within humanity?
Oh my goodness, that's a big question to be asking me out of the blue.
These are the things I think about, Lori. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that's what movies
Let's
inspire
do
me to
Roman
think
Empire. Okay. And also, I'd like to comment that I thought I watched a lot of TV, but apparently you watch more. So
I watch different things than you watch sometimes.
I think the whole Me Too movement made a big difference.
Good.
I do think it's making a big difference. I think there's a backlash, obviously, going on because of that right now. And it'll even out eventually. It just will take time. But things that haven't gotten better, there's still a bunch of ideas about women that are antiquated.
Okay.
Like they should just be in the kitchen having kids kind of thing.
I do notice that some people say that in a very specific group. Sorry, I didn't.
Right, it's still around, it still lives.
Sure.
And maybe it always will.
I mean, there's still Nazis and racists around. Like, you're never
Right.
going to stifle, or you want to stifle that, but you're probably never going to be able to eradicate it without authoritarianism.
Here's what's going to make a difference.
Okay.
Is women making money, because that's what speaks especially in our country, and maybe that's why the French hate us so much. I'm not really sure, but that's what speaks here is money. And if women start making their own money, I think they'll. I hate to say that but it's probably true. They'll get respect. They'll have more respect. Women in business, women. I don't know. I mean, look at. I hate to say this, but look at OnlyFans.
I don't. Actually, I have gone on OnlyFans once because Whitney
I haven't
Cummings has
either,
a special. Well,
but-
Whitney Cummings has a roast special on there that I did log in to watch that. It's of Bert Kreischer. Do you know who Whitney Cummings is?
Yes.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
I would have sounded insane otherwise.
Yeah, men hate it that women are becoming millionaires because of OnlyFans. They hate it. They think it's just like that shouldn't be.
2 or 3% of them are. I don't think so. I've heard, and I think Whitney Cummings say this on her podcast, that the thing that OnlyFans does is take out the middleman, which is good because having watched The Deuce, and again, this is a show I watched with my wife. A lot of my TV is if it's consumed with my spouse, then it's good. Which is from the guy who made The Wire about when we kind of moved to home video. So it specifically takes place in the 70s and 80s, but through the eyes of, what's the word you're supposed to use? Working women, prostitutes, and their relationship with their
Sex workers.
Sex workers, thank you. That's the thing it's like flight attendant, not stewardess anymore. You say sex worker. So the sex workers don't have a good management structure or HR compliance, and OnlyFans has to, they're selling subscriptions. They're like the thing you can sell subscriptions on for podcasts, Patreon. Ellen has one of those. Is Ellen that much different than someone who's on Ellen, Tracy, any much different on Patreon than a woman on OnlyFans?
No, I would say no, but there are a lot of people who argue that, there's a difference.
I think Alan's going to appreciate the comparison.
Hey, Ellen, come on the show. Nick's been on. You're late.
Oh, he would be delighted. Anyway,
good.
He would be delighted. Is it different? It's slightly different, but it's not at the same time because you're selling something. You're selling. Alan's selling. What is Alan selling?
His podcast that you can buy a subscription to Film and Beyond on Patreon.
And the women are selling sex. Or not even sex, really. It's visuals. It's just visual. And it's safe, and I'm not promoting it by any means, but I'm just saying that's an example of women taking back what's been stolen from them forever.
What are we talking about when we say what's been stolen from them?
Like you said, the rape culture, and men thinking that they should deserve sex from women for free. or they pay them maybe $10 or something for actual sex and putting their lives at risk, and or men deserving a cut of their pay when they're the ones who are doing all the work. I didn't mean for this to go into a sex worker conversation.
We're gonna do an Honora podcast eventually, and that is touches on. I made a comparison to Alex Sutzko today between Honora, The Substance, and Baby Girl starring Nicole Kidman, and I think all three of those movies are in the awards conversation this year, which is interesting, and I think relates to. I'm gonna make a joke. Chris Rock had it relates to what we're talking about. You looked like, oh no, what's he gonna say? Chris Rock had a joke that was, and I'm not gonna do the impression, has joke that you got to keep your daughters off the pipe and the pole, and my joke would be that you got to keep your daughters off the opiates and the OnlyFans now, or the fentanyl and the OnlyFans. That's the two F's versus the two O's. Sorry, I'm big on the alliteration of that joke.
It was good.
I do not like being complimented on the show. See, that was a backhanded way of getting at me.
Yeah, okay. We can leave that conversation because I'm not an expert on sex workers.
Oh, but no. I was going to ask, though, with these kinds of things being available, and you've mentioned that your daughters have had boyfriends. Have they had, and I'm not equating these two, they've had jobs before. So, they could think, oh, I could go make some extra cash on OnlyFans. And how do you, it seems like you have a libertarian view on people, or maybe you don't when it comes to your own children. I know I wouldn't, so that's why I'm asking you. It's how do I keep my daughters from pursuing that as an income source?
We're hopefully giving them the foundation to be able to make money in different ways.
Sure.
But there are women that are just really good at the old OnlyFans, or maybe they really are drawn to sex work.
Here's a question. Oh, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I follow a woman, a sex worker from Australia on TikTok.
Whoa.
She makes a ton of money. She counts her money on the TikTok, and she tells you about her experiences, and she loves her work.
What interested you in following her on TikTok, and besides the Chinese trying to pump this algorithm to lower our culture?
Yeah.
Chinese definitely hate us.
Just to see what a different life is like.
Sure.
Because she tells details, not intimate details, but details of her job and her life, her everyday life.
Logistics.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about logistics.
Yeah.
Does not matter what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's why this movie opens up the possibility to is what's to say that sex work is so much different than what she was doing, in a way, using her body to make money, because she had the Jane Fonda career. She went from winning an Academy Award to selling workout videos.
If you think there's any difference between what they were showing as Sue doing her show and Demi Moore actually doing the aerobics and the close-ups and the angles that they did on that show and OnlyFans, it's very similar. It's very similar.
I'm not going to do the research to find that out.
No, I don't know myself either, but I am guessing that there are people on OnlyFans that don't show everything, but show a lot, and in different ways. Like those aerobics were pretty sexualized.
But again, these two gentlemen happen to not find the two gentlemen on the podcast right now, because I was grossed out by how we got there. And I think that's what I would say to your husband, is that typically if I just saw that apropos without the context, I would probably be oh, okay, that turned my head. I can say that I'm a heterosexual male, I'm working. But in the context, it was no. So without this ridiculous context, it brought me to that place, and that's good, right? Because it makes me build empathy for women and how they're. I don't need to tell you. You probably argued this already to your husband. I'm mansplaining your argument to 2 for 2. Sorry.
Did you notice that there wasn't a lot of dialogue in this movie?
Yeah, there was 103 pages. There's a 130-page script, and there was 29 pages of dialogue.
And it was mostly Dennis Quaid that spoke.
Oh, that's a great question, and I don't have a debate here. Did men talk more than women in this movie?
I think they did, because there were very few lines from the ladies.
And
when they fought with each other at the end, and tried to kill Sue, did kill Elizabeth. It was just a screaming match. It wasn't there weren't any words said, really. I mean, very few, if they did. I can't remember if they said much at all. It was just her enraged and beating her.
So as she took more from her, I didn't find like the way they aged Demi Moore to be, that seemed absurd too. Do we all agree that that was absurd, or did you think that like she had her own beauty when she had the wrinkly leg or whatever?
What's the question exactly?
I don't know.
Well, I don't think that's how aging works. I don't know.
But there are old people
Yeah.
who look like that because of a variety of medical conditions.
Okay, she looks like that, but I don't know how she still moves like a regular
Right.
person.
That was
Yeah.
cartoony also
Yeah.
because she had this leg that she could barely get straight, but at the end she ran like a track star.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that didn't make sense.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a counter to that.
I'm not believing that part.
So, what do you think brought Elizabeth to this point? Like, the only thing we've talked about from her past is that she won an Academy Award and then was doing aerobics. We don't know anything about her family. She has no other friends. Like, what would bring someone to that, to be so isolated? You said winning an Academy Award might bring you to something like that. Why did you feel that way?
I think that you don't have people who you can trust anymore in your life. People tell you things that they think you want to hear, and just to get maybe, I don't know, to get something from you. I had the privilege of driving Terrence Howard around Minneapolis to different press events.
He's very intelligent, I've been led to believe.
He and his wife, they're lovely people.
Okay.
I've just lovely people. But the things that I see with that, my eyes were opened in that we would go to an event and people want something from a celebrity. They don't necessarily care about the celebrity. They don't, it's something that they want from them. They want them to make them feel special.
Like Fred to Sue, or like Fred to Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, you're great. I see you on TV.
Make me feel special.
Come out on a date with me.
Yeah. Let me be seen with you. Let me take a picture with you. I want you to sign this thing that I have. Just whatever it is that they want from that person. And if they don't get made to feel special, it's almost like they're angry with that person, and they have no right to be.
Sure.
But I don't think they showed that much in the movie, though.
They don't show
Yeah.
it, but maybe
There's an angle on it, is the point that
that
I
could be
think.
a backstory.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how someone is like. I accept all of that. I only got like 2 more questions. The Shining.
Kirk's falling asleep here.
Yeah, Kirk's.
know.
Yeah.
Kirk's bored with this. He's gonna have to listen to this.
No,
Get my
it's
head.
all good.
I know that you were not looking forward to this conversation. From the last podcast, you were like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about the substance."
Oh yeah, because I'm not a fan of body horror. But I mean, after watching it, it's not a lot of body horror, so I was fine with it. I just think it doesn't have a lot going for it.
Okay, my argument against that, where I was going, is like it has a lot of allusions to The Shining, and you were pointing out a lot of allusions to Stanley Kubrick.
Was I?
Yeah, because you pointed out
Yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey with the colors.
Oh,
like-
I'm sure visually they were doing callbacks or the music cue, but I don't think that makes it
sorry.
a good movie though. Even if you do those kind of callbacks, it doesn't have much substance.
The substance
yeah.
didn't have much substance, is what Kirk is saying.
Alex Susko made that joke in text to him today. So, yeah, that joke is probably
He
gone
has
around
dry
the
humor.
Do you have a relationship with The Shining or any Stanley Kubrick? Are you
I love The Shining. That's my
Okay.
favorite horror film.
really? I know
Very-
your favorite movie is Wizard of Oz, not just the show that I did my
Yes.
homework.
And Wicked might change that. I don't know. Well, I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen Wicked yet?
No, because I was waiting to go
part
with my
two?
family, and then they ditched me.
Go to the 9 a.m. sing-along screening.
I'm going to go by myself.
You're gonna go to what sing-along though?
Well, I might.
They
I don't know.
have sing-along screenings like specifically designed for people.
They have 3D. They have all this. So I'm going to have to. I think I'll just do the plain one first and
okay.
then work my way up.
Wait, you're gonna see it more than once?
Oh, I would love to see it more than once.
Okay.
This is it.
This is
it.
your Super Bowl.
Yeah,
This is your Marvel movie.
for sure.
I mean,
I loved Barbie too.
what?
So yes. Okay.
I mean,
we're not
sorry.
debating that, but yeah.
Wait, what do you think that like Barbie for me did a lot of the similar things that The Substance did, where someone could say, "Oh, they're beating me over the head with it," But the only one that got me and like really hurt me was, you haven't seen The Godfather in Barbie? Because I've said that literally to my wife, and it's different because I was one of the 1 in 3 of 3 people on opening day. 2 were women, only 1 was a man. Of Barbie. I assume you knew that statistic as a fan.
No.
My point was just that I was in the 33% of the audience who were men.
Oh, that's great.
Sure.
I saw it with a pre-screening group, so.
Well, of course you did.
Yeah.
Because you're very fancy. So I guess, how do you feel about the allusions to The Shining? And Kirk doesn't think that's good enough or adds substance to the
I
substance.
don't think it is.
We're
No.
asking Lori, the guest now.
Oh, okay.
It's her favorite horror movie. I'm listening.
No, I wrote some notes down about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
'Cause
Let's get all your notes in before the end, because my
Oh my
last
gosh,
question's
I don't
purposely
think-
a joke.
Oh, the hallway full of past accomplishments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
At the beginning.
it became the reminder of what she used to be, and that was the kind of the horror part of it. It's like you have to look at this every day. Every day you go to work, you have to see yourself as your younger self, and then you see the progression of what you've lost in beauty and youth. Every day you're walking down that hall and you're reminded of that fact.
As someone in technology sales, that I feel has very egalitarian, both men and women do it to different degrees of success. And I think it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You would look at that same hallway as, oh, I used to sell smaller things and now I sell bigger things. So it's funny you've pointed out that it's, to the point of the movie, that she's losing something by moving forward in her career, which is the opposite of most people's careers. Mm-hmm. What else did you have?
For The Shining?
Oh, sorry. No, it doesn't have to be for The Shining. I know that you took notes, and I always, when a guest comes with notes, before I ask my joke question,
I
to end
know.
us.
You've
Because we
covered quite a
always go
bit.
long. I'm terrible as a host.
You're like a shotgun host,
Yeah.
and
I'm
like
holding
you
a
just,
shotgun
like,
mic.
So I haven't been able to look at my notes very much.
I can vamp while you're looking.
I feel like we covered a lot of it.
We covered many notes that I had put in the shared document. I love breaking the fourth wall and how we do this show.
Yeah, that's great.
Here's a question. What would an American remake handle differently?
Oh, you're looking at the outline. Sure. Do you
Yeah.
think because this is a foreign movie, so if they could make this same concept, and as we've talked, already have probably Shallow Hal.
Yeah. But I think in an American remake, they have to have, there's always the perfect man. There's always a perfect man in there in the movie. You have sidekick friend, girlfriend, which she didn't have. She didn't have any friends. But there's always like a Hallmark movie, there's always the perfect man, which doesn't exist. There's no perfect man. There's no perfect woman. I'm just saying.
Oh, sure.
But there's always, in the movies, American movies, there's always some perfect man.
Kirk was arguing last night that in K-dramas, K-dramas, they always have a perfect guy, and that is hurting the culture of South Korea because
of the 4B
Yeah.
situation that's going on there.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes. Women are boycotting even dating men over there because they don't want to be stuck having babies and getting married.
I don't understand. Maybe it's hard for me because my wife has had 2 kids and still works because she got a master's degree and is tenured in her job, so she's going to keep working and wants to, and I support, like, I knew that coming in and was excited for it. That attracted me to her.
Yeah.
Not from an economic point of view, but I could see someone making that argument against me. I like to self-bait on the show a little bit. I'd forgotten about that, so thank you for reminding me. Do you think that relates to this movie? Because it does kind of,
The timing of it, possibly, just because women are. I'm a huge fan of TikTok. If you haven't gotten that already,
Do you want the Chinese to destroy our culture from within? Yes.
I don't think they're going to do that. They're buying us. They're buying us slowly. Anyway, what was I going to say?
The 4B situation and how it relates to the substance.
Yeah, the timing of it might relate to it because that's happening everywhere in the world now. They're trying to pay people practically in some of these countries to have kids because women aren't having kids like they used to because they're out working, they're having lives, they're enjoying other things, and they don't want to be, maybe they don't want to be married at all. Maybe they don't want to have kids, maybe whatever. And they have that option now.
As someone who has both in their life, how do you feel about that change in culture? Because you have a lovely family,
Right.
and you have a career that I've argued is enviable already. So
Right. As a married woman who stayed home, with her kids, from day one of them being babies, I've said, "Oh, my love, you don't ever need to get married.
Oh, wow.
Please don't ever feel like you need to get married. If you want to get married, there will be stipulations." But
Wait, you would give your daughter stipulations to get married?
I would have her think twice and 3 and 4 and 5 times
About what aspects of it? I'm fascinated.
about getting married. If she wants to get married and she thinks, oh, we're going to have kids together and legally then he's responsible for the kids or whatever.
Sure.
Okay. There's no other reason that people need to get married anymore.
There's tax incentive for if you cohabitate.
Part of the tax incentives in that.
Again, me making another economic argument, but
See, it comes back to money, doesn't it?
Well, you pointed out that. That's
It's
really,
unfortunate that that's the way it is. The economic benefit.
communism hasn't worked yet, so we need capitalism and some balance of. Interesting. So you're a like. You can't have it all. You can't add one together and get 3 eventually. The opposite happened to our character in this movie. She focused on her career, was very successful, and now at the end of it, she's like, how do I go back instead of...
The problem is they don't introduce a man, though. The man doesn't solve her problem in this story. What?
I mean,
Yeah.
thank God, because I think that would be trite.
An American-made movie would have that happen,
probably.
though.
Shallow hell. It's shallow hell. Okay, I do want people to get married because I want to make a sitcom about wedding DJs, and that's my personal...
I mean, they can get married in the story. It's a fictional script.
I think people do love each other for their entire life, and I don't know, it works out to have...
How about this? How about we have term marriage?
Ooh, like term limits. I want, as long as we get it for the elected officials as well. Yeah.
If you want to renew, great. You can renew it easily, probably, and just file some paperwork.
Okay.
But let's start with you could maybe have a 5-year, 10-year. Maybe you want to have kids and you want to have 18-year.
Oh wow.
Whatever you want, you could have. But then either your marriage dissolves, or you can renew it. How about that? That's super easy.
As a wedding DJ, I've had to fake a couple of New Year's Eves.
Back to economics.
No,
a job.
Yes, I've had to have a W-2 and a 1099 because of America. No, I wanted to. The joke I was making is this a New Year's Eve movie? That's what I was going to end on. Kind of like how Nicole Kidman's Eyes Wide Shut and now Baby Girl are Christmas movies.
They never have a countdown.
But they're having a New Year's Eve show, so it's
that
a New Year's
is
Eve.
true. They are. It's kind of like Die Hard is at Christmas time.
See, that's a great reference.
But there are actual Christmas lights in the Christmas tree in the movie, though. There's nothing that is New Year's equivalent in the movie.
The ball drops, Kirk.
Does it? I don't remember a ball dropping. There's no countdown.
Wait till you realize what I'm talking about.
The ball drop?
The eyeball? You mean the eyeball dropping?
The boob?
Yeah,
eyeball?
Out of her eyeball.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. A ball does drop.
Yeah.
Lori, any closing thoughts? Because I want to make sure we get them all.
Oh, no. It's been a delight.
Thank you. Wow.
Yes, to be with Kirk. No.
See, that's what I want from guests on the show. Bust my balls. Kirk busts my balls. He's my brother. Farx
No,
brothers.
it's been a delight to be here, and you really made me do my research and watch something that I wouldn't have watched.
Wow, what an advertisement for future guests on the show.
We gotta
thank you. Could you say bring us out on an interesting tidbit from your interview that we obviously start with, but people will be hearing theoretically after this? What was the best question Kirk asked?
Did you ask me any questions?
I asked 2, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What was your question?
What kind of coaches did you have?
Oh, okay.
And I forgot the second one. I don't
Well,
know.
hey, tune into the interview episode to hear.
Yeah, here's my second question in the interview.